Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians. Gotta give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, and a sincere salutation to all the doctrine, pushing the truth and believing the truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Awaf who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah, coming at you with another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification. Another daily edification. The Lord's willing, it'll be edifying. And this is wars upon wars, wars and rumors of wars. Okay? And the collapse of Babylon the Great monetary system. Lord's willing to be edifying.
From Studio 4 in the world headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital, this is the news with Rick Sanchez.
Good evening. This morning, in one of the most stunning reactions this country has ever seen from Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she snapped and became extremely agitated when a reporter asked her if she hates the president. It happened as she was walking away from the podium after she had announced that the impeachment of Mr. Trump will proceed. Here it is.
Do you hate the president, Madam Speaker? Because
I don't hate anybody.
Representative
I don't
Collins
have a great
Lisa,
Catholic house. We don't hate anybody. Not anybody in the world. So don't accuse me.
I did not accuse you.
You did.
I asked a question.
You did. And
Representative Collins yesterday suggested that the Democrats are doing this simply because they don't like the guy.
that has nothing to do with it. Let me just say this. This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me.
Then there's the other hot button issue that came out of the impeachment proceedings having to do with the president's son, Barron. That's coming up in our Media Muddle segment, which you do not want to miss. But we're going to begin tonight with wars and talk of more wars. The U.S. is presently engaged in wars in 7 countries. Probably less than 1% of you watching this newscast right now could name them because our media and our government prefer that you don't even know. I, not just as a journalist, but as a fellow American, believe that we should know. So here's the list of the countries where we are at war: Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Libya, and Niger. By the way, we also have more than 850 military bases around the world, some of which look more like cities than bases. Why am I telling you this? Here's why. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Trump administration is now considering sending 14,000 U.S. soldiers and Marines to the Middle East. The report says that the contingent would also include dozens of ships and more military hardware to surround, essentially, Iran. Word is the president will make a final call on whether to send or not send any troops by the end of this month. Of course, soon after this article was making headlines, the Pentagon came out with a denial. There's really so much to chew on with this story, including the potential for an 8th war for our already overextended military, this time with Iran. And the question it behooves us to ask, right, as reporters: will a damaged, impeached president be more apt to engage militarily? Think about it. This is the news with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it's time to do news again.
This is Micah, Micah chapter 2 and verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. They in over 850 countries, man. Doing what? Taking over, man. Why? Because their blessing was to live by the sword, man. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5. It say, yeah, also, because he transgressed by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. They don't stay here. They in over 850 countries, man. Doing what? Taking the resources, the minerals, man. Yeah, also because he transgressed by wine, his philosophies, his policies, his legislations, his democracy. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desires as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. But gather unto him all nations, and heap unto him all people. Right? This is what does it say? Woe to him that increaseth in debt, which is not his, man. Okay? These devils go in. This is Habakkuk 2 and 9. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. But he can't, man. Okay? Verse 12. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, establish a city by iniquity. Okay? This is what they do, man. They go in and they take, man. And they take and they take. Why? Because their blessing was to live by the sword, man. Habakkuk 2 and 6. Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that laid himself with thick clay. Why are they doing these things, man? Why? This is why they doing that, man. This is why they going to every country doing what they want to do, man. Because of this. This is Ron Paul. Why are central banks panicking? Global crisis ahead. This is why they doing that, man. Going in taking because they are in debt. Thick clay. Over $400 trillion of debt. North America, Babylon the Great is in, man.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is Chris Rossini, our co-host. Chris, good to see you.
Great to be with you, Dr. Paul.
Okay, very good. You know, we both looked at an article that talked about a global crash coming, and they even used the word just around the corner, and we have our title is Takeoff on that, because I want to let you know that I have some very, very inside information, and this is top secret. I peeked around the corner, and guess what I see? I see a crash coming. I think it's already there. It's on our doorstep. And I think people are waking up, and I think that's the gist of this article. It was on Zero Hedge, is tipping us off that the activities of the Fed, they're back into QE. People are being frightened, and there's
QE is quantitative
monetary
easing.
Inflation going on. So there are things
Creating more
happening
cash, man.
that indicate that not only a few of us who talked about this for years and so tried to sound out a warning, before the dot-com bubble burst and before the housing bubble burst, but there's a lot more joining. But there's still a lot of people who are technical people. They're technicians, and they look at what's happening, and they look at tradition. They say, well, as long as rates go down, the stocks go up, and they've made a lot of money doing this. But they have to realize that what they have to do to keep that going is inflate the currency, print more money, and something that can't go on forever. doesn't, and I
Right.
think this is what we see, when we peek around the corner, that it has started, there's ramifications, and even the great statistics that we get now are an economy, when you look at real growth is not there. Is there real growth in real wages? It's not quite there. Is it helping the middle class grow? No, the middle class is shrinking. So the problems are there, and there's deception that occurs. And I guess it wouldn't be very good for the politicians to point out the truth, because it has ramifications, and that is understandable. They're not likely to do that, especially if things are going to be negative. But when I campaign, I always try to point out the negatives, but I always wanted to end with, it doesn't have to be that way. And Chris, that's what I want to talk about today. We think there's a crash coming. We think we're in big trouble. We want to point that out, warn the people, but also that if we understand economic policy, especially monetary policy and spending policies, it need not be a total disaster. But right now, there's a lot of handwriting on the wall that spells disaster and a further attack on our liberties.
Right, Dr.
And they
Paul, I
always
know you're going to
and
bring
they always talk about handwriting on the wall, because when you go to the book of Daniel, right? That's what the king saw, and Daniel had to break down what it meant about the handwriting on the wall, man. Daniel had to interpretate that. Okay, so hey, hey, this is nothing new under the sun, man.
a chart, and it's going to actually focus on the actions of central banks. And as we all know, actions speak louder than words, especially in politics. One of my great teachers, Lou Rockwell, he would say, when a politician is speaking, always assume that he's lying, and you'll rarely be disappointed. And that's because lies are the essence of power. Power is built on lies. And all you have to do is just take a small snapshot of modern times. Look at Democrats. They are lying to remove Trump from power with all the impeachment stuff. But on the other side, Trump lies to stay in power. He says that our economy is the greatest ever and it's the envy of the world. It's just not true. And the Fed goes along with it. It's all...
See, that's Satan divided against Satan, man. If Satan be divided against Satan, how shall his kingdom stand, man? Okay, that's Mark chapter 3, verse 26. They blind against each other, man. You see? This is Job 13:4. It reads, ye are forgers of lies. Job 13:4. But ye are forgers of lies. Ye are all physicians of no value. Okay, all they do is lie, man. Back and forth to each other, man. Liars, man. Okay, this is Mark chapter 3 and verse 25. It reads, Mark chapter 3 verse 23. And he called unto him and said unto them in parable, how can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Hey, the White House is totally separated against itself, man. Right? The Democrats and Republicans, which are in the Roman time, they was called what? The Flavians and the Patricians, man. Okay? There's nothing new under the sun. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end, man. And that's what's going on, man. They lied to each other.
Roses and sunshine with the economy, but their actions, and that's what we're focusing on today, indicate panic. And that's what we have to go by, their actions, not their words.
Yes, and if we can have that chart, Sir Khan, I think I could point out a little bit of what's happening, because I believe what happened about 2.5 months ago was a very significant event. And that was when the Fed was caught flat-footed, and all of a sudden they woke up one morning and, my gosh, overnight rates are at 10%. There's a panic out there. Boy, get the printing presses running, get the computers running. And looking at this chart, I think is very informative. Monthly change in the Fed balance sheet. And so here it is. They were trying to get rid of the excesses, and that was always controversial. And Trump, politically took a perfect position. It's not good. It could cause problems. And a year ago, the stock market was in trouble. And so they kept shrinking the balance sheet, and lo and behold, something hit. And you can see the orange line at the end there, how it shoots, skyrocketing up in one day. Of course, they've been able to get the rates down again. Guess how? They did it by, just inflating like crazy. They thought to themselves that what we should do is maybe we have to have QE. Oh yeah, that's a good idea, but we can't call it QE. That means that we're really in trouble and we're admitting it. So they have it. They're doing as much QEing that they did in the early part of the bailouts in 08 and 09, but it's still not supposed to be QE. But they're massively, inflating the currency in order to keep the rates down, everybody happy, and Wall Street doesn't sell their stock. There's a tremendous amount of support for the stock market. But since that announcement, when they panicked with a 10% overnight rate, they've pumped in $300 billion, $60 billion a month, and they're going to continue at that rate. They're back up now over $4 trillion on the balance sheet, and by approximately June, if we just keep going at this rate, but I suspect it could have these jumps and go up much faster, we'll be back where it was at its peak, trying to get through the last bubble. But we never solved the problem of the last bubble. We just papered over with it and convinced that as long as the stocks are going up, everybody's happy. They totally ignored the fact that there's a lot of people in Main Street America and middle class who are having trouble making it under these conditions. But the statistics they have, which reflects monetary inflation, allows people to think, well, maybe things are going to be okay. But I think that the chart we just showed and the fact that they're inflating like crazy, that this is short-lived, and I think that's the reason we're seeing some things happening. And Chris, let me just mention a few things that I've noticed, that many countries are repatriating gold, which means they don't have full trust in the United States. They want their gold closer to home, which I always was amazed that they didn't have the gold closer to home, because I think if an individual's trying to protect oneself, they ought to have their gold close to their home, not stored someplace else where nobody can, where you can't get to it. There's been the repatriation, but there's been the outright purchase of gold by many central banks. And that is also important because they're compensating. If a country is inflating, but they're buying gold and this sort of thing, it's not going to harm them quite as much because they have a real asset indirectly related to their currency. And in the midst of all this, there's been articles talking about, and you don't need many articles because there's a sense that nations are breaking up. There's more secessionist movements. There's more conflict, and especially with the consequence of the Middle Eastern war with the open borders and the movement of individuals and going into these welfare states and for free benefits. There's a lot of chaos, and a lot of people are sick and tired of it. So there's almost like an epidemic of secessionist movements. Yeah, early, late, mixed bag. But the people who have done some studies of this indicate that there are Americans who actually feel this way, which is very dangerous in many ways because it can lead to domestic crises. And I think that's is typical. When you destroy a currency, you destroy, the stability of the middle class, and you impoverish the middle class, and then everybody jumps on the bandwagon and they blame good stuff, too much freedom, and not enough government spending. We hear that all the time. So I think that the economic and social consequences of what we're talking about and why we've talked about this, very, very serious. And we have a long way to go to solve these problems, but for me, the solution comes from an understanding. It's a philosophic problem, an understanding about why liberty is important and why sound money is crucial.
Right, Dr. Paul, and you alluded back to 08. They fixed nothing. But that was a big taste for them, what they went through. If you think back to 08, in just a matter of weeks and months, these huge, colossal, gigantic international firms disappeared. Just out of, they were gone. That's something that they're not used to, power. And today, amazingly enough, we're orders of magnitudes even worse than what they did in '08. And they're really trapped because they can't raise interest rates. Look what happened when they just raised to a measly 2%. Everything started falling apart and they had to reverse course. Now they're heading back down to zero. So the whole global monetary system has no foundation, nothing to hold it up. It's just a big pile of sand. They have to know it. They're going to do anything they can to save it, and it's starting to appear in their actions.
Right.
Hey, and that lead me back to this, man. Hey, that is beautiful, man. Hey, Babylon the Great is done, man. And that leads you back to this right here, man. Okay? That's why they doing this, man. Because their monetary system is done, man.
This is the news with Rick Sanchez.
Good evening. This morning, in one of the most...
As a matter of fact, let me get past this one real quick to get back to the point.
You do not want to miss. But we're going to begin tonight with wars and talk of more wars. The U.S. is presently engaged in wars in 7 countries. Probably less than 1% of you watching this newscast right now could name them because our media and our government prefer that you don't even know. I, not just as a journalist, but as a fellow American, believe that we should know. So here's the list of the countries where we are at war: Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Libya, and Niger. By the way, we also have more than 850 military bases around the world, some of which are
850
city bases. Why am I telling you this? Here's why. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Trump administration is now considering sending 14,000 U.S. soldiers and Marines to the Middle East. The report says that the contingent would also include dozens of ships and more military hardware to surround, essentially, Iran.
Why is that? Listen, man. What you people gotta understand is this is part of prophecy, man. Genesis 27 and verse 40. 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. Verse 40. And by the sword shall thou live, and shall serve thy enemy, and shall serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And that happened during the time of Solomon, King David, when the Edomites came from up under the King David, right? And they broke the dominion, okay? And during the time of King David or Solomon, right, when they got the dominion, then you got in the mid 1300s when they came back into power. But the point is, and they should have a fatness, right? They should have a fatness. It said, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by the sword shall thou live. And that's the point, man. By the sword. They got over 850 military bases around the world, man. Okay? Doing what? Taking the natural resources, man. Okay? Why? Because Babylon the Great, North America, is in debt, man. So, that's what the Lord said this. This is Joel. That's why he said they gathering 14,000 troops over in the Middle East, which is what? The Valley of Jehoshaphat. This is Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. And this talking about all the other 16 heathen nations. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Meaning, spend all your money on missiles. Okay? Get ready for war. Get your army together. The other nations. Let the weak say I am strong. The weak nations are strong now. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Verse 12. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is Jehoshaphat, which is in the Middle East, for there will sit to judge all the heathen round about. Verse 14, Joel 3 and 14, multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. So, what's going on? The Lord is gathering these nations, man. Okay? When you go to Proverbs 21 and 1, it reads this. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. Okay? Let's read Proverbs 14. Verse 14 and 12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So, let's read Proverbs 16 and 9. A man's heart devises his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. So what they don't understand is the Lord is gathering these nations, okay, over there in the valley of Jehoshaphat, man, okay, which is Jehoshaphat in the Hebrew, the valley of decision, man, over there in the Middle East, to do what? To go to war. Why is they doing this? Because of this, man. They losing. Let's play this back.
You know, that's something that they're not used to, power. And today, amazingly enough, we're orders of magnitudes even worse than what they did in '08. And they're really trapped because they can't raise interest rates. Look what happened when they just raised to a measly 2%. Everything started falling apart and they had to reverse course. Now they're heading back down to zero. So the whole global monetary system has no foundation, nothing to hold it up. It's just a big pile of sand.
Right.
They have to know it. They're going to do anything they can to save it, and it's starting to appear in their actions.
Right. And you know, the crucial thing on what will hold things together for a while or everything will fall apart is the dependency and the confidence in the dollar as being the reserve currency of the world. And I think it's destined to fail as a reserve currency of the world. And you know, they're doing various things. And one thing that I've been interested in, because it's you know, this whole movement to crypto is interesting because one of the reasons they go to crypto is because they know this system is failing. But there's still questions about how authentic crypto is as a currency. But it's interesting, China, you know, the communists have something that I've talked about and said, well, if crypto technology is so great, why don't we combine that technology with gold? And that's what China is doing. But if it's a true connection, it's true that could substitute, you know, for some of the problems that we have with the loss of the dollar.
This is James 5 and 1. See, you Edomites, you Idumeans, you Babylonians, you cave dwellers, you Caucasians are finished, man. James 5 and 1. Go to now, you rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, your garments are moth-eaten, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. Hey, man, everything about you devils, man, is coming to fall, man. Okay? Isaiah 13 in verse let's see, Isaiah 13 in verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Okay? Listen, man. Verse 19, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, North America, Babylon the Great, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Your end is coming, man. That's why Isaiah 41 and 7 say, Isaiah 47 and 1 say, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. There is no throne. Okay? Your kingdom is collapsing, man. And there's nothing you can do about it because this is the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua.
The thing that the Fed has been putting up with, and they've been in business for over 100 years, and they don't know what they're doing really, but it was incremental. The first day they were in office, they started inflating, but they didn't get rid of the gold standard. It took them a while to do that, up until 32, and of course 1971 to gradually abandon the gold standard totally and completely. But they took them a while for them to change their tune, especially during the Depressions. Several of the Federal Reserve Board chairmen did their special investigations in their scholarly adventures and said, well, the Depression was only there because they didn't print enough money. And I think even Greenspan finally, accepted that, although he was a hard money man. So they said, we know how to keep out of that. And Bernanke was the worst on this. And that's when they really, really turned on the spigots, because don't let the money supply shrink. And, there's 2 points I want to make. One is, when there's overinflation of the money supply, the market demands deflation. They want to correct things, get rid of bad investments, and let the dollar drop in true value and liquidate the debt. But that's not politically popular. So, what they learned in the Depression is we don't have to allow the value of the dollar to drop. What we can do, though, is we will just keep printing the money, and that's the policies that they have been following. So they can stop monetary deflation. They can stop the shrinkage of money, but that doesn't solve the problem. What the problem is that they can't control, because the markets control it, and that is the deflationary value of the currency. That's a big difference, and that's what we're having now, is the deflation of the value of the currency, and it's being made very confusing for financial people by these negative interest rates. Even people who've been on Wall Street for a long time, who were not gold people, are saying, hey, this has never been done before, and they're sort of wringing in their hands. And once again, I think people are waking up. There's a crisis over there. It's around the corner, and I don't want to tell you what I saw because it wasn't good.
There's nothing new under the sun. Hey, just an update to show you what's really going on, man. And it is in Babylon the Great, man, that collapsed, that monetary system collapsing, man. Okay, so with that, give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well. And a sincere salutation to all the Akim pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the 4 winds of the earth. The entire world waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Awaf who are listening and learning. A few sisters who are listening and learning. Hey, Lord willing, till next time. Hey, shalom.